What an opening weekend series it was for the Atlanta Braves as they come away with a series win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Jared Kelenic gets off to a great start. Michael Harris, a good weekend as well. We'll discuss it all on today's episode of a Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jacob Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out my written work over at BravesToday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on social media at LockedOn_Braves. Send me any questions, comments, feedback you have for the podcast. Always enjoy hearing from you. If you're new watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're approaching 10K. Didn't quite get there by opening day, but we are very, very close. If you're listening to the audio version, thank you so much as well. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review. And thank you so much to all of my everydayers out there. And once again, let me know if you're an everydayer. Let me know down in the comment section below on YouTube. On today's podcast, we are going to recap the entire opening weekend series in Philadelphia. It is also Minors Monday, and the AAA season got underway. So we'll talk about that as well on today's episode. Before we do, though, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And the Braves get the season started with a series win in Philadelphia, winning the first two games by pretty wide margins and by all accounts dominating the Philadelphia Phillies in the first two games of the series, and then narrowly giving one away on Sunday, 5-4 on Easter Sunday. Hope you all had a great Easter Sunday. By the way, I enjoyed my time at the beach with the family over the weekend. You might have seen some of the videos and pictures that I uploaded on social media. So I hated to have to do that on opening day, a weekend, but it was a fun time with family. Hope you all had a great Easter weekend as well. And the Braves did, again, with that series win. I'm not usually going to go blow by blow on these Monday recaps. Once the minor league season does get going, we will recap the week for the minor leagues on our Minors Monday episode. But since it is the opening weekend series and it is the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm going to go game by game on these. Game one, Spencer Strider, 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 2 earned, 8 strikeouts, gave up a 2-run home run. Too many deep counts early in this one. Probably kept him from going another inning. It's also first start of the year. Not going to push it there. Even so, he looked rather dominant up until the point where he made a mistake to Brandon Marsh. He talked after the game the fact that he was maybe a little bit too worried about the runner on second base, Bryson Stott. I've said it all the time. He was my least favorite Philadelphia Philly. It seems like he always comes up with the big hits to just really crush the Braves. But Strider said he was maybe worrying too much about the runner out there, wasn't focusing on his pitching, and left one over the middle for Brandon Marsh, who just got one out of there for the 2-run homer. But other than that, Spencer Strider looked dominant. He looked like Spencer Strider. It's honestly very reminiscent of last year where you saw Spencer Strider. He looks dominant. He dominates for 4, 5, 6 innings, and then all of a sudden he gives up a multi-run homer. Hopefully that is not going to be something that continues throughout the year. But even so, 5 innings, 2 earned, you certainly take that out of your ace. You'd want at least another inning added on to that. And again, I think that comes back to the point where too many deep counts early, being the first start of the year, 90 pitches, not going to push him for more than that. He had 18 whiffs on 46 swings, 11 of 16 on the slider, 2 of 3 on the curveball. Threw 11 curveballs, 2 called strikes. I mentioned the 2 whiffs as well. Wasn't quite as dominating of a pitch as I might maybe hoped it was. I saw some Phillies hitters just kind of spit on it, but obviously threw some good ones in there as well. I think it's a pitch that'll just get better for him. I mentioned the deep counts early in the game, 18 foul balls in this one. That's something I feel like that hitters have been able to do against Spencer Strider a lot early in his career. You think about it a lot with the Mets, but Phillies too. It's just because it's so hard. You're either sitting fastball or slider, and you're guessing wrong, and you're just hoping that you get a piece of it. It feels like he gives up more foul balls than anybody else, and sometimes that will drive up his pitch count, and it's hopefully something with that third pitch that leads to fewer foul balls and more swings and misses. But either way, a great first outing for Spencer Strider. Bullpen came in, did its thing. Jimenez, Johnson, and Minter all put up zeros and looked really good. Bummer did give up a run on opening day, also gave up some runs on Sunday that ultimately led to the loss for the Braves. Not a good start for him. He didn't have a good spring. First two appearances for the Braves at the short sample size, but haven't been great. And you wonder, Matzek, maybe even Dylan Lee, if they're going to pass him in that pecking order in the bullpen, if he doesn't kind of turn things around. With Bummer, it's always about the walks. It's always about the command of his pitches. He has dominant stuff, but he can lose command at times. I don't advise bringing him in with runners on base, which is what happened on Sunday. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, how the bullpen was managed on Sunday. I'll get into it. But the offense on opening day, they just kept coming. Look, they couldn't get to Wheeler for 6 innings, and I get it, Wheeler's good. But they had some chances, especially in that first inning. Ronald gets on, steals a base, and then Riley and Olsen both get robbed of what would have been RBI base hits. They had a chance in the 5th as well, but weren't able to come away with anything. But they just kept coming. They kept putting runners on base, and that's the same thing we saw with this offense last year. They're going to keep pushing, and eventually they're going to break through, and they did so against the Phillies bullpen. They had 2 in the 7th, 7 runs in the 8th inning to come back, take the lead, and get the big win over the Phillies on opening day. Game 2, Max Fried doesn't survive the first inning, and the Braves win the game 12-4. Now, if you're watching the game or listening to it on the beach as I was, he clearly didn't have his location, didn't have his good stuff. He still should have escaped that first inning. He had Castellanos. Castellanos knew it. It's a fastball basically right down the middle. It somehow gets missed. The challenge system cannot get here fast enough. Been saying it for a while. They tested it out in the minors last year. It needs to be here. I'm sure they want to do some more testing and tweaking of the challenge system, but it just can't happen because here's what this trickle effect is. Max Fried doesn't make it out of the first inning. He gives up 3 runs. Yes, that's one thing, and that's bad. It also leads to the Braves destroying their bullpen in game 2 of a series. Now, Jesse Chavez came in, and luckily he is just the king of all kings. Sorry, he is not Jesus Christ, but he comes in like, and gives the Braves innings and bridges that gap, and that's just what Jesse Chavez does. But he comes in, and he gives the Braves some length, but still, you had to use a lot of arms on Saturday, and that likely dictated what Brian Snitker was able to do on Sunday in a game that the Braves could have won, but maybe they didn't have another arm available. Maybe Brian Snitker was down an arm that he didn't want to use because you had to use him in Saturday's game, because Max Fried got bounced so early, because the umpire made a terrible, terrible call. It's not just that moment in that game. And look, Max has to settle down. He's got to make the next pitch, but he made the pitch to get out of the inning. Mentally, he should have been out of it. Kind of the same thing what happened on Sunday. The Braves had a double play. They were off the field. They thought they got out of a jam there. It got overturned. They went out there, 4 straight hits for the Phillies. You still got to find ways when things don't go your way to buckle down and get it done. Max wasn't able to do that, but beside that point, he should have been out of the inning. And who knows if he would have put it together, figured it out. I tend to think he would have. He's Max Fried. He's a veteran, and sometimes you have to feel your way through starts. But he didn't get that chance because of a terrible missed call. So Max doesn't make it out of the first inning, but Jesse Chavez does come to the rescue. He ends up tossing 3 innings, allows just 1 run on 2 hits, and then Matzek, Johnson, Lee, and Iglesias all had scoreless appearances as well. Dylan Lee going 2 innings, Matzek multiple innings as well. So the bullpen did a really good job. On the offensive side of things, 12 runs on 19 hits, including 7 runs on 12 hits against Aaron Nola, the pitcher that many believe the Braves were going after pretty hard this offseason. The Braves absolutely lit him up. Acuna, Ozzie, Michael Harris, and Arcia and Kelenic all had 3 hits in the game on Saturday. So just an amazing performance by the offense, an amazing performance by the bullpen after you lose your number 2 starter in the first inning of the game. To be able to come back and win that one just really speaks volumes to this Braves team. Now on Sunday, unfortunately, didn't go to their way. A 5-4 loss. They had a chance late, had a lead late, but could not hold on to it. Sell battled in this one, Wasn't easy for him. 5 1/3, 5 hits, 2 walks, 2 earned, 7 strikeouts, just 83 pitches, but it did look like he was tiring. That 5th inning, he had to exert a lot of energy to get out of a bases loaded, no out situation, only allowed 1 run. So that was great there, but then came out for the 5th, gave up a really loud out before he was pulled. So maybe just tiring a little bit there, his first start of the year. Got 12 whiffs on 41 swings. Overall, a really good first outing for Chris Sale, and I can't wait to see more for him. Talked about Bummer already. Thought he escaped damage with that double play, comes back out, gives up 4 straight hits. And to me, in my mind, that's where you could have had a righty ready for that Alec Boehm hit, which gave the Phillies the lead. I think if this were a postseason game, I know everybody's going to get on Snicker. It's the 3rd game of the year. But if this were a postseason game, I would hope you have a righty ready for that Alec Boehm at bat there, and things maybe go differently. And again, maybe that's a situation where if you didn't have to burn your bullpen on Saturday, maybe Pierce Johnson is available at that point. But either way, it's the 3rd game of the year. I'm not going to get on Snicker there for not having a righty ready, especially after you had basically a bullpen game on Saturday. Offense battled in this one, even after the Alec Boehm hit that gave the Phillies a 2-run lead. Braves came right back the next inning. Jared Kelenic getting a rally started, scoring a run, bringing them within 1. They had runners on the corner for Matt Olson, and he just got under 1 to end the inning, with the Braves offense still coming and battling, trying to come back in that game. We're going to talk more about Kelenic in a minute, but I want to finish this talking about the Phillies. Braves win this series, but do not be surprised if the Phillies are leading the division at the end of the month. Check out these 2 schedules for the rest of the month. The Phillies have the Reds, Nats, Cardinals, Pirates, Rockies, White Sox, Reds again, Padres, and Angels. That's their schedule the rest of the month of the April. Meanwhile, the Braves play the 2 World Series teams from last year, and the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, and they play the World Series champs from the year before that in 2022, and they finish the month in Seattle. So pretty tough schedule for the Braves coming up the rest of the month of April. Pretty easy schedule for the Phillies. So again, don't be surprised if the Phillies are leading the division by the end of the month with the 2 schedules that you see there. But a great opening series for the Braves to get that win against their rival Phillies, kind of set the tone early. And the way they won those 2 games, and the way that the Phillies had to scrape and crawl to win that last game of the series, I think that said a lot about this Braves team and kind of the early message that they're sending to their division rivals. Now, next, I want to talk about Jared Kelenic and the hot start that he got off to. Had that spring training, a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, and he comes out the opening series of the weekend and makes some spectacular plays, both at the plate and in the field. We'll discuss all of that here next. The sports calendar is loaded right now, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Down to the Final 4 in March Madness. Somehow, the Alabama Crimson Tide are in there. Should have been my Auburn Tigers, but we'll let that go for now because we moved on to baseball season. And if you have 2 and you're looking to get in on some of the action there, they have parlay builders. They also have hitter props. If you want to get on that as well, you can also look at futures with World Series and awards odds out right now, as well as win totals still over there at FanDuel.com/lockedon. So make sure you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I want to also tell you about LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn's Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. Are you watching Fox Sports, ESPN? It was on at the hotel where we were staying this weekend, and I wasn't watching it for 5 seconds, and all I heard was a bunch of yelling and shouting. I don't even know what they were talking about, but if you're tired of hearing all that, make the switch over to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's jump into Jarred Kelenic and the weekend that he had for the Atlanta Braves. Or let's pause for a second and go back in spring training where he is absolutely struggling. Braves go get Adam Duvall, maybe as a response to that. Fans are talking about, can we get rid of Jarred Kelenic already? He's already a bust for the Atlanta Braves. And then you get that last week of spring training where you saw him really start to make some changes, and not just in the results, but the type of at-bats as well. And he's starting to make more solid contact. He's starting to get more lift on the baseball. Really throughout spring training, you didn't see him strike out a lot. We talked about that on here. He wasn't striking out. It's just the quality of contact wasn't very good. And look, this is a guy that's had a 30% strikeout rate in his career in the big leagues. He's cut down on that, but he just needed to make better quality contact. Well, he started doing that the last week of spring training, and it has carried over into the regular season where he is off to a really good start. And this is exactly what you wanted. Obviously, if you're Kelenic and the Braves, anytime you're going over to a new team, you want to make a good impression. And he didn't do that the first 3 weeks of spring training, but now you're starting to see what he could be with the changes that the Braves have made. There's really good videos on social media. I need to go find them, and I'll retweet them out when I can find it. But really good videos showing the changes on his swings going through the years with the Mariners and now with the Braves. But he's basically quieted down his hands some more. Starting out in Seattle, he really would drop those hands down pretty far as he kicked up that front leg. And it's just a lot of movement in his hands. You're seeing his hands be a little bit more quieter now. But for me, as I talked about and I wrote over on BravesToday.com, it's really just about the angle. And I know a lot of people talk about launch angle, but for him specifically, if he's going to be a pull hitter, that's great, but I need to see him get more lift on the baseball. He did that final week of spring training. We've seen it a little bit already today, or this in regular season, these last 3 games. And he's 5 for 7 over the weekend with a double, 2 runs scored, 2 RBI, a walk, and no strikeouts. I mentioned in spring training, even not striking out a lot. That's carried over into the regular season against some good pitchers. He faced Wheeler and Nola the first 2 games of the year. He came in on Sunday off the bench and got a hit against a very good reliever as well. 107.4, just missed getting out. Second hardest hit ball of the day by a Braves player. The last one being Michael Harris, who ended the game. He had a great weekend himself. But Jarred Kelenic, what a weekend for him. 4 hard hit balls, 6 of 7 balls put in play were hit at least 85 miles per hour. Again, after what we talked about in spring training, what we saw, I don't think he could have asked for a better start to his Braves tenure. A long way to go. It's a small sample size, but the results have looked very good at the plate here over the last week or so, going back to spring training. But it's not just at the plate. In the field, he made an incredible diving catch on Saturday to rob Bryce Harper of a hit. I thought he had no chance of getting that ball. You can see Jesse Chavez's reaction after Bryce Harper hit that ball. He thought it was for sure a gapper, a single, if not a double, probably a double with Harper, who, by the way, I'm glad he's okay after that scare he had in the camera well. And he went Superman and made an incredible diving catch. So he's doing it all. The only mistake he made on the weekend, trying to steal with nobody out, JT Realmuto behind the plate, and Ronald Acuna Jr. at the dish. Do not run in that situation. If you do, you better know you've got that base stolen. So that's one mistake hopefully he won't make again. But outside of that, it was pretty much a flawless weekend for Jarred Kelenic. And how about the 2 late additions in spring training already paying off? Adam Duvall with a clutch hit on Friday. Jesse Chavez picking things up for the entire pitching staff on Saturday. Alex Anthopoulos going out the last couple of weeks of spring training, making 2 moves, and those 2 moves have already directly led to wins for the Braves. So got to give a lot of props there for Alex Anthopoulos in making those moves. So great weekend for the Atlanta Braves. Again, already mentioned, or I didn't really talk about it a lot, but Michael Harris, a big weekend. He is still out there just burning people on social media. Don't know if I agree with all that or not, but it's fun if that's the way you look at it. But he had a great start to his season. Matt Olson, a bunch of doubles on his birthday. I believe 3 doubles on his birthday on opening day. He had a great weekend as well. Ronald obviously doing his thing. Ozzie Albies had 2 home runs, 2 2-run homers in the first inning, back-to-back days, 1 from each side. He had a great weekend. So it was a great weekend for the Atlanta Braves. They get a series win. I know as we're recording this, or you're looking at this after Sunday's game, it's a bit deflating the way that it ended, but it was a great start to the season for the Braves. Now, I want to quickly go through our Minors Monday segment, as it is our Minors Monday episode. And we did have some games over the weekend, 3 games for Gwinnett this past weekend. JP Martinez had a huge weekend. He went 5 for 11, a double, 2 home runs, and 3 stolen bases. So he did some good things down there. I know the Braves are excited about him, want him to get those everyday reps down there. So a great start for JP Martinez. Eli White also 5 for 11. He had a couple of doubles and 3 steals. All the Braves starters went at least 5 innings. Dylan Dodd didn't give up an earned run over those 5 innings and had 7 strikeouts, but he did walk 5. So that is not good. Bryce Elder allowed just 2 hits with no walks over 6 1/3 innings with 7 strikeouts. That is fantastic. Darius Vines gave up 3 earned on 5 hits and 2 walks with 4 Ks over 5 innings. In the bullpen, Ken Giles picked up a save. Daysbel Hernandez tossed 1 2/3 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts. So those are the next 2 guys up, in my opinion, if arms are needed in the bullpen. I think it's either going to be Ken Giles or Daysbel Hernandez. So keeping a close eye on those 2, and they got off to good starts at Triple A. A lot of good starts there. Martinez, even Dodd in 5 walks, not good, but didn't give up a lot of hits or runs. Elder, a great start. So love to see that. Again, typically on Monday, we'll have a bigger recap from the minor league level, but that's what we'll do every Monday here on the podcast. All right, next we'll get to some of the news of the day. We'll talk about Sean Murphy, his injury, what the outlook is, and who's going to be filling them for him going forward. And then we'll gear things up for the Chicago White Sox series starting on Monday afternoon. We'll talk about all of that here next. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the NCAA tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes us here at Locked On and most of the other big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. And if you get tired of sports, although I don't know how you could right now with the beginning of Major League Baseball season and March Madness, but if you do, they have great channels for news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking, and as well. Check out the Fire TV channels today. If you haven't, I'm telling you, you definitely should. Learn more at Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. It wasn't all great for the Braves over the weekend. They obviously ended it on a sour note with a loss, and they lost Sean Murphy on the first game of the year. He goes on the injured list with a grade 1 oblique strain. Obliques can be pretty tricky, although Snickers said it was pretty much the best possible outcome. I don't know what that means. I hate to speculate, but I got to think at least 3 to 6 weeks at least. They're not going to rush it with him, especially at this point in the season. And you have quality backup in Travis d'Arnaud, who's ready to go. And you have Chadwick Tromp as well. So the Braves are good right now at catcher. If something else were to happen, obviously that would be a huge blow, but that's why it's great to have somebody like Travis d'Arnaud right there to back him up, to fill in when needed. But I hate this for Sean Murphy. I absolutely hate it. And not just because selfishly, personally, I drafted him on just about every fantasy baseball team I had this year because I was so hyped for the season of Sean Murphy, ready for him to show why I think he's the best all-around catcher in the league. And then he gets hurt like this. It's a really, really tough blow. Again, hopefully he is back sooner rather than later. and can still go on to have a massive season like I thought he would. But I just hate this for Sean Murphy. Opening day, first game of the year, to go out like that. So hopefully he won't be gone too long. Maybe they'll get him back sometime in mid-May would be my guess at this moment. But I just really hate it for Sean Murphy. Some news from around the league, a dust-up in New York between Rhys Hoskins and Jeff McNeil. So that was some fun series over there between the Brewers and the Mets, if you saw that. Outside of that, Juan Soto's off to a great start in his Yankees tenure. I think he got on base 12 times already and had a game-winning hit off Josh Hader on Sunday as well. So the Yankees swept the Astros in a 4-game series. So they got off to a hot start over there in Houston. But other than that, not much going on over the weekend around the league. I'll try to keep you up to date on everything going on there throughout the season. Next up for the Atlanta Braves, 3 against the Chicago White Sox, who just got swept by the Detroit Tigers. And the Chicago White Sox are basically the 4A team for the Atlanta Braves with all the Braves players they have over there. Although it looks like we're going to miss Michael Soroka, who pitched on Saturday. I watched the majority of that start while the kids were sleeping out on the patio, and they were not sleeping on the patio. I was watching on the patio while they slept. But Soroka, it's still, to me, he can't get that sinker down. The slider still has really good drop to it. The changeup is really good, but that sinker, he just can't get it down, and it gets absolutely crushed up in the zone. But he still managed to get through 5 innings, left the game with a chance to win it. But that Chicago White Sox bullpen is absolutely rough, which I think is going to be tough look for them when they face the Braves this upcoming week. But again, the Braves do miss Soroka, who pitched on Saturday. They also won't be seeing Jared Schuster, who's at AAA, and he also pitched on Saturday. Right now, the pitching matchups are Charlie Morton versus Chris Flexen on Monday afternoon. Reynaldo Lopez versus Garrett Crochet on Tuesday. Crochet looked really, really good. And the White Sox opening day game, they lost that one 1-0, but Crochet was absolutely dominant. So that could be a tough matchup for the Braves. Big lefty there that throws really, really hard. So watch out for that one on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday afternoon, Strider versus to be determined. At the moment, it could be Jake Woodford, who pitched last Friday for the Charlotte Knights, which is the AAA team of the Chicago White Sox. So wouldn't be surprised if he gets called up to pitch that game on a Wednesday afternoon. But this needs to be an easy series win. This White Sox team is not good. And if I have one key for this series, it's make somebody other than Luis Robert beat you. And Luis Robert almost beat the Tigers on Saturday. He hit 2 home runs in that game. And again, Michael Soroka left that game with the win or with the lead because of Luis Robert, but that White Sox bullpen gave it away, and then they lost in extra innings on Sunday as well. But do not let Luis Robert beat you. I mentioned all the former Braves players on there. They have Kevin Pillar, Braden Shoemake, who got his first big league hit, which was also his first big league home run on Saturday. I don't know how the White Sox lost that game, but either way, might get to see some Braden Shoemake, some Nicky Lopez as well. I saw a hit and run between Shoemake and Lopez. So again, not watching the Braves, kind of fun to go watch the White Sox because got a lot of former Braves players over there. But that's who the Braves will be lining up against for the next 3 days. Max could get the home opener. When you look at Strider pitching on Wednesday's game, the off day on Thursday, Max Fried is lined up to pitch the home opener, which is really cool. I talked about the fact that you gave Strider the opening day start. I thought you could have gone Max Fried with that, kind of to give him the nod. Perhaps his last year here, he is the veteran. But the way it lines up to get him to start at home for the home opener, I think that's even cooler for Max Fried. And hopefully he lasts much longer than he did in his last start. And I think he certainly will back home. So that could be really fun to look forward to. It'll be the first home opener I'm going to miss in a long, long time. My kids' baseball team getting in the way of that, but I'll be there Saturday. So if you're going to be at the game next Saturday, come look for me. I'll be there with my son and a couple others as well going with me. So looking forward to that next Saturday. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure that you are locked on to the Locked On Sports Today podcast on YouTube, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's now also available on the free Fire TV channels app. We also got the postcast. Me and Greg McCauley, be looking out for that on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube and in your Locked On Braves podcast feed. Make sure you follow me on social media at ShortstopBall and the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.